welcome to ArtCo Afternoon Arts. Thank you for joining me. My name is Amber Crimmings. I am the Artistic Director / Cat Herder at Deep Ellum Art Company, and we bring these classes to you in your home or wherever you are so that we can create together. We can share a bit of those tips and tricks in order to help both our artists and our community. I've always found that creativity is really good for us as people, and then it helps us enjoy art more when we understand all of the work that goes into it. I think there's, I'm sorry Doobs, I think there's a big disconnect sometimes from people on art. You know, they think it's this magical thing that artists can do, and everybody else says, you know, I can't even draw a stick figure, and so it feels like magic, but really it's work. It's mind and muscle connection, much like basketball or learning how to write your name or numbers. It's just figuring out how to take care of the basics in order to get there. And that's what Mondays are for. Mondays are our back to basics. You know, I used to be a teacher, and I still am, and there's really no use to. I'm one of those lifelong ones, teacher and students. And so being able to take those concepts and help our adult artists and community reconnect is a wonderful thing to be able to do, and I feel really excited that, you know, trying out this new thing amidst all the craziness, I think that this is a wonderful thing that we've added to our operations here at Deep Ellum Art Company, and I hope that we've done a lot in order to add to everybody's lives that watches these or goes back you know, in our archive videos. We didn't do much last week. We were getting ready to open up our doors. I had a lot of work to do on site. I was playing construction gal. Make sure you come by this weekend. We're open Thursday through Saturday from 5 until midnight, I believe is the time. Our doors usually open around 7 to 8 o'clock each evening, depending on what the events are. Until then, it's free to come in, but we do have a wonderful panel display in our backyard, which is 15,000 square feet. This panel display of all of the panels that went up to cover and protect Deep Ellum businesses when the riots went through, and then artists descended upon the community, helped uplift it by painting beautiful images and uplifting messages on the boards, and we were really lucky enough, and I was honored to be asked to curate this exhibit and put it together, so it was a really fun but hard thing. So we kind of took a break from some of our classes, but we're getting started today. Today again is back to basics, and we're playing with some illusions, but we're going to do it in a fun way. You know, sometimes Mondays can be a bit drab and boring, so I wanted to shake it up a little bit today and just play with doing something simple. Hey Bill, hey Linda, happy you guys are hanging out. Thanks for joining me and Doobs. Doobs is excited to try to show you guys some fun little magic / illusion tricks. I'm excited to play along with that too. And so we're talking about lined paper illusions. So everybody knows the regular boring old paper that we use and that we use for our school. You know, we write out all of our essays. You can tell Doobs is very interested in all of this. So this paper is normal, boring, yeah? And so being able to take something and make it look like an illusion and something's coming out of it or something's popped in it is something that we can easily replicate with the right materials. So I'm actually going to use my paper to look at for reference. You know, I've got holes in it, I've got blue lines, and then I've got a red line that goes right down. You know, I think you're right, Bill. Doobs missed classes so much that he's excited to be watching today. You can see how enthralled he is with this already. I think it's also the eraser at the end of the pencil is kind of his favorite. Anyway, he's interested in art, period, which is why he's always a part of our art classes, because he likes playing around with all that stuff. But we're going to work on a simple white piece of paper, and just, you know, because our time is short, I want to show you a couple different ways in order to play with this illusion. So I'm going to work real small, and then I'm going to give you the basics, and we're going to go through some really, really basic shapes. Like right now, I'm going to work on trying to make it look like there is, you know, like a sinkhole or a pothole a little bit in the paper, except nice and smooth, and I'm just going to make it heart-shaped because I'm feeling kind of lovey today. I got Doobs. You know, I'm happy that we had our locals and we were able to operate and get our yard open this weekend, so I'm feeling like my cup is full of sorts, and so, you know, that also equates to a full heart, so maybe we're just going to play with that as a shape for inspiration. Now I've got my paper here that I folded in half so that I could have a nice, small, little project. Now what I'm going to do with this paper is you are going to need a ruler with this, because remember, our lined paper has lines that go straight across. Equidistance, meaning the same distance on both the left and the right, right? Equally distanced apart. And so we need to do that using a ruler. So what I did here, and I've already got some tick marks, that way we can speed right through it. I'm going to make tick marks every 1/4 of an inch. You could do it every 1/2 inch. I'm going to do that on one side of the paper, and then I'm going to move and shift my ruler down. Remember, you do not want to turn your ruler around, right? You don't want to turn your paper around. You don't want to do that. You want to leave your paper the same after you make the tick marks and shift your ruler down. Do you know why? Well, your paper might be slightly off a little bit. It might be like 11 and a half plus a tick because the machine was off that day and didn't cut it the same. So when you flip it around, it may not always be starting at the same, it may not be exactly 12 inches. It might be 11.78 inches. And so it'll shift where your tick marks are. So you want to keep your paper oriented the same way. Come back down, make your tick marks every 1/4 of an inch. Now remember, my paper, blue, red. So I need to make sure, if I'm going to do the illusion, that I am using blue and red pencils. So I have mine already ready. I've just got blue and red right here, and I've got them pre-sharpened, and I've got really, really sharp points. Now this matters. How your materials are prepped and how you use them matters, especially with pencils. So as we work on this, and as we do our lines, we're going to have to sharpen these more than once, because as I do my lines, they're going to be really, really sharp due to the sharpness of the lead. But then as the lead dulls, my lines will get fuzzier and the lines will get slightly thicker. So we need to make sure that we're paying attention to the points on our pencils and making sure that they stay really, really sharp. I'm also going to be using a ruler, and I'm actually not going to show you my hair, but I'm actually going to line up my tick marks here, and then I am going, actually, you know what, I'm going to do it on the back side, then I don't have to lean over. And then I'm going to connect these tick marks, and see how that gives me a nice bold blue line. And so I'm going to do this for each one. And I've got a heart that's drawn on here, super, super light with pencil. This one I did prep because I wanted to make sure I had time to do the stick figure one. So see how I'm getting all of my lines done? My lead's getting a little soft, so I'm going to switch to my other blue that's got a nice sharp lead on it. That way I can make sure that my lines stay nice and sharp. They don't get too fuzzy. And that I'm keeping in with this illusion. Now as I get to where my heart is, I'm going to stop drawing my line. Can you guys see my heart drawn on the paper there? Super, super light. Yeah, I'm going to turn that. Maybe if I turn that you can see. See that heart? Super light, but I've got it drawn in, alright? So I don't want to draw my blue lines where my heart is. I have an electric sharpener, so I'm just going to use that to get my lead sharp again. And I'm going right to the edge of my drawn heart here. I got to make sure all of my stuff is lined up accurately so that we can really make sure that we've got a really nice and accurate looking lined paper. See how this is starting to look real nice? Oh, it's really looking nice. I'm happy with this so far. I hope everybody's having a good Monday. Bill, happy that you guys hung out. Thank you. It said great time at ArtCo this weekend. So much fun. Hey, thanks. I'm so happy that you enjoyed the panel displays. I hope you guys paid attention to all the social media and artist tags on those. So many great artists throughout the DFW area, and Dallas Art Therapy came together in order to really uplift the community. I love that. And speaking of art therapy, we're going to be doing our art journaling and therapy tomorrow. So make sure you guys tune in at 3 p.m. and we will be doing that fun exercise, playing with mixed media, our feelings and creativity, and crossing those lines of thinking outside of the box and applying that to other areas of our life. We are going to be shifting our afternoon ArtCo classes moving forward. We are going to continue to offer these, but we are not going to continue offering them every single day because of the other operations that we have going on. But we are planning on doing these Monday through Wednesday every week so that we can keep the classes going. This will also help me because we run through a lot of lesson plans and a lot of one-day lesson plans for every day of the week for anybody that's a teacher. Whew, especially an art teacher, and ones that have to be done typically within an hour. It's a good amount of work, and we want to make sure we're continuing to bring you quality art shows, events, and ways to support. We've got gallery shows coming up, artists propping up in the yards for art sales. Alright, so I'm almost done lining my paper out. You know, I'm just kind of trying to get these last couple lines on here. These weren't super important, but that's okay. Alright, so now I'm going to look at my paper. Now my paper has a red line here, and so you notice mine's a little bit thinner, more like this is wide ruled. I did more like college ruled on mine. And so I'm actually going to, let's measure on this and see. Oh, this one's about 1.5 inches in is where my red is. So you can see Doobs is super interested on my measurements here. So actually what I'm going to do here, I have a red pencil. So I'm going to use this in order to make the red line. Being smart. And so I'm going to actually take and make a tick mark. Same thing that I did when I did the blue lines. I'm going to line my ruler up here at the top. And you know, I'm going to do mine at just 1 inch here since I'm doing a smaller piece of paper. I'm an artist, so I get to make up my own world as I do it. So I got my tick marks. Remember, I just shifted my ruler down instead of turning papers. Right, start here, shift it down, make my other tick mark. That way I can go through and create this line. Again, this one intersects a little bit with my heart. So I want to make sure that I'm not actually getting through there. See how that's starting to look like a piece of paper, y'all? Oh my gosh. So I'm also going to need my little holes for my, you know, we've got that in there, our little hole punch. So I need little holes. I've got this little handy thing, and so this will help me. I can line this up. That one's about the exact same size, so I could use that same one. And so I'm actually going to take my paper, that's a 2/8. I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to measure here. That one's about 1 inch. So I'm going to measure, let's see, about 1 inch in. We'll do a little mark here with just the pencil because I can erase it. And then I'm going to do another inch in with the mark there. And then let's see, 8.5 would be 4 1/4. Alright, so we've got a good general spot for all of our holes. I'm going to go ahead, take this, and I'm just lightly going to put a little hole in there. You see that? Lightly. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. This one I'm going to kind of center though. Well, I'm going to stick that right in between. I probably should have done these first maybe, and then I could have gotten rid of the blue line in them. Retrospect. Learning as well. That's alright. So now that I've got those in there, I'm just going to create a little kind of dark line here and just a little shadow, you know, that way it looks like it's casting a shadow on whatever it's sitting on. And I've got nice clean lines on all of those. See how this is really starting to come across? Oh, it's fun, right? Again, this is the simplest way. I'm going to show you the simple version yet first, and then we're going to do something a little bit more complicated. So right now, I'm really just creating this basic kind of fake piece of paper, except I'm just not filling in where the heart is. So now this is where we're going to be playing around with the actual illusion part. Now I want it to look like my heart is concaved, almost like a bowl is really what I'd like this to look like. Look like it's got a nice smooth kind of depression in the paper that shows where that heart was sitting on top of it. And so I might use my pencil here in order to kind of start getting an idea for how I might want that to look. So I'm going to want it to have kind of a steep edge on the two sides. And so I'm just kind of sketching these out as, you know what, maybe we will just do it with blue because you can't really see that, can you? So I'm going to scoot you down and we're going to get you, even Doobs is like, hey, I can't really see. That way we can get you guys where you can see. So I'm in a very smooth, singular motion. I have to do this with confidence. So if you need the pencil lines for you to have that confidence, then make sure that you pre-draw those so that you can do that. I am going to sharpen my pencil. Because I want that to help me with the illusion. Oops, you know what? That one was wrong. That one was wrong. Luckily I drew light so I could erase it. Now this line right here is actually going to be connecting to the center here. So we want to make sure that we're grasping all of those in the same way. Oh wait, what are we doing here? Somehow I missed something. Yeah, that one's right. There we go. Get all of these rounded out. There we go. And then I'm going to use my pencil along the edges, and we're going to start creating a shadow through here. And I'm going to use really light cross hatching through this in order to create the idea that this is a depression rather than something that's lumping up. I may have done this one wrong too. I think I probably should have had this one scoot up to that corner. There we go. And then this one scoots down. There. That creates a much better rounded part there for that section. And so you see, as I start working with my pencil in order to create the shading through here, we can start creating the idea that this is folding into the paper rather than rising. And you can really do this with any shape. You could do this with a letter as well. Maybe play around with monograms. So a basic, simple way to kind of take something and make it into something interesting. And really that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take something that's normal and boring, you know, doodling basically, and trying to replicate something as simple as a lined piece of paper so that we can then mod it in ways to make it look like this really fun, interesting scene. So we're going to kind of run around and play with it again. I want to do a bigger piece with y'all, and I'm going to do it with some wider lines on it. So I'm going to raise you guys up just a little bit so you can see a little bit better, and that way Doobs can still watch along and be part of the project too. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make my tick marks here, and I'm going to use my blue, sharpened up. Yeah, do you like Doobs watching? He's always watching. Like, it is funny. He was very angry, apparently, because I was gone. I was at ArtCo setting up the panels, and so my kids told me, because they're doing virtual school, that he was home like meowing and angry that I was not in the room making art, and it was quite funny. So yeah, we'll have to bring him to ArtCo here soon for one of the operating days when he won't be a pain in the butt, because he's mostly chill, but then he can be a pain, can't you? Yeah, exactly. Alright, well that paper got wet. I don't know how that happened, but we're going to work with this paper. Alright, so I'm going to do some tick marks on this. I am just going to stick with every 1/4 inch on this, or every 1/2 inch, sorry. I'm going to do every 1/2 inch. We're doing big lines on this one. So I'm just making real light tick marks, not very big, just big enough that I can see. Yeah? And I'm not going to turn my paper around. I'm just going to take my ruler, I'm going to shift that right on down, and then we're going to make our little tick marks at every 1/2 inch again. Remember, we've got to get the framework for this done correctly, or else the illusion will not work. And so we want our lines to be perfectly spaced. Alright. And so I'm going to leave my ruler here, and I am going to have the forethought this time to take care of where my circles need to be. So I'm going to do an inch in on both sides, and then we are going to do 5.5 inches in the center. And I'm going to go ahead and get these circles put in for my little punch holes that would be existent on my paper. Before I get my line work in, okay, there we go. Now we've got our holes put in, and I've got my lines all the way across. So I'm ready to get these done with my blue pencil. And, you know, I don't want to mess with any of those yet, though, until I've decided what my image is. And so I want to do something kind of fun. I want to make it look like maybe somebody's kind of peeking up, you know, where a line might be. So I think I want to put some, I don't know, some stick figures and stuff here. So I think I'm going to do a plan and make it look like something's kind of peeking out. So what I want to do, let's see, is probably about right here. You want to make sure that your lines are connected to the right tick marks here. And so I've got a nice kind of straight line put in here, because I want to make it look like I've got a little, I don't know, we'll just stick with stick figures. You know, so many people say they can't draw stick figures, so we're just going to stick with those. I'm gonna get this guy fixed. Okay. All right. That way you guys can see. There, that's better for you guys. All right, so I want to work on a little stick figure guy. I'm gonna put a little head in here, and I just want to sketch this stuff out, so this will be kind of hard for you to see at first, but rest assured, Doobs is watching. I mean, he's yawning. I guess he thinks now it's boring. So I'm going to get my little dude here, and he's going to have a little hand that holds this up. Get a little arm drawn there. You know, we're going to have some, we'll put some eyes. Yaw. And then we can have this other dude holding on maybe. And so what I want to do here is I want to make it look like my paper's separating. And so I'm going to use my blue pencil in order to at least get the rest of this line in. Because I want it to look realistic. So I want to make sure that I've got a nice little setup here where it looks like definitely we've got this guy reaching down. And then, you know, I'm going to create another guy over here. A little circle here. Maybe we'll create little arms right there. I kind of like that. And then I'll create like the rest of his, I don't know, the rest of his back. I'm just trying to make it look like he's maybe stepping on things. I don't know. Okay, we'll just kind of play around with that idea. Yeah, we've got two guys right here. He's trying to get around. Maybe what we'll do, let me see where my lines line up here. I do first want to mess around with all the rest of these that are definitely going to be affected. So if I want to think about my paper being lifted up like a piece of fabric, I'm going to want to make sure that all of that is also going to be shifted up, right? Because he's lifting it up. I may even go ahead and go in and add him in blue, but that's all right. We're gonna stick with this for now. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna get my straight lines on the edges because I do want to make sure that I protect their integrity. So I am going to go through and get these taken care of and know that as they get closer, they will be less and less affected. So that means my straight lines are going to kind of work more and more. They're going to flex less and less. Words, they're hard sometimes. All right. Getting these lines taken care of. I want to try to make sure that I've got nice and sharp lines. See, I've got some great lines there. And then I'm going to go in and get my lines connected. just enough in order to add a little kind of hump and a little bit of a difference here. And we can also make it look like that we've got lines going on in the background, like maybe they're on a stack of papers. So I'm going to actually kind of get that little line drawn in so at least I know where I want that to be. And then I'm going to get the rest of these drawn in, at least until I get down to where this other hand is and where my other character's going to be in this scene. Now remember, I've got my hole punch there. I want to make sure that I'm not messing with that at all. I'm going to get that erased out because I want that one to flex, I think. So I'm going to have my nice straight line, and I'm going to have that get pulled down because he's kind of grabbing a hold onto it. I like that. I'm going to get this guy taken care of. Now remember, I don't want to draw through the head, so I want to make sure that I'm aware of that. Now this one I'm going to want to grab down a little bit. So I'm going to leave a space there. That way I can have another flex down. Have that be another one that he grabs onto, or she, whichever. Really just working on trying to create this idea of illusion that we've got these characters running around and altering our lined paper. That one I'm just going to keep flat. And this one I'm going to create a little dent in there for the foot. And these will all start coming together once we get really that image done. You know, this all goes through an awkward teenage phase, ATP. We all go through it. Even our drawings do. So we want to make sure that we're dealing with that awkward teenage phase. I've got my lines drawn in. I've got all that taken care of. I do want to make sure that I've got a nice straight line going down here for my actual paper. So I'm going to get that drawn in so that I have that nice kind of look of lined paper in there. Get those holes kind of taken care of. I'm just using some shading in those to get just a little bit of shadow in there. Alright, so now I want to go in and I want to play around with my characters. The first thing that I want to do is I'm going to want my characters to at least be dark enough, but I think I'm going to make them just a darker version and draw harder on them for my needs here. And so I'm just going to draw these little guys in. Get his little hand taken care of. I'm going to get this guy taken care of. See, that one's kind of looking up at him. Holding on to that, trying real hard to get up to him. And give him some nice shoulders. See how that's starting to come together, you guys? This is some great basics on how to deal with our drawings. Yes? Alright, so I'm going to go through, I'm going to get some more of this line taken care of, and this is where our shading's going to really matter. We want to make sure that we really kind of play around with some of the shading here, and that we really make it look like we've got some folds going on. So really the first thing that I want to do is I want to go in and I'm going to darken some of the shading up underneath this line. Because, you know, we want to make it look like we've got a nice shadow going on here, but we also don't want it to interfere with all the rest of our image here. I'm going to keep that line prominent because I want to make sure that we can see the rest of that. Yeah, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to use my pencil in ways to kind of just darken some stuff up. In ways that kind of add to this nice idea of illusion. I'm going to pretend these lines are like folds of fabric. So I'm going to get a little bit of shading on these in order to make it look like, you know, they're wrinkled up here. You know, I can add a couple extra folds too for emphasis. You know, I can add another line in there. Look how neat this is looking. I can even add a little extra shading through here to kind of show that extra little wrinkle through there. I can do the same thing through here. And so you see how this starts to become more complicated as we can continue to add and make this a little bit more technical, even though I'm really just using stick figures, but we're kind of upping it a little bit with some of our, you know, I'm going to go ahead with this guy. I'm going to give him a little bit of coloring in here with the pencil. I think that'll work alright. I'm going to give a little bit of shadow here. That way we get this idea that there's space underneath him here. We'll get that one as well. Alright, so I'm going to also need to do the same thing with all these other ones, right? Because they're only going to look like lines until I actually shade them. Big difference, right, between up here and down here. So I'm going to go through, get the rest of my shades done. Yeah, so that we've got a really nice kind of pool. And then of course, I'm going to take care of this one. Make it look like he's pinching the paper there, creating a depression. Then we're going to pull up underneath it here. We're creating a little shadow here. I'm going to put that shadow off to the side. You know what? I'm going to go ahead. I've got a lot of shadowing here, but I think for now I'm going to go ahead and draw just real light, a little arrow here. Now, this is a good tip because this is going to help me remember where my light's coming from. Actually, I don't want it at that much of an angle. I'm going to do it fairly straight down. And so this is going to help me remind me where the light's coming from. This is going to help me when it comes to my shading. Make sure that my shading is up underneath here and not something, yeah, that's going to get my way. So slight angle. I want to make sure that I've got enough shading underneath here in order to hold on. And we're just going to get this taken care of with a little minimal shading there. See how he's pulling on those things? Yeah. That works pretty good. And now we're going to want to add some more shadows on here. You know, I think I want to have some shadows for my stick figure dude. So I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to get some stuff kind of taken care of over here. And I'm just going to throw a little shadow through here. So I'm just going in, getting a little fuzzy version of that stick figure guy going on. That way I can get a nice little shadow. You can do the same thing with his little arm over here, and you see how that starts to really just make things kind of pop. You can really play around with things in a lot of different ways, and you can really create these fun illusions just using a simple ruler, right? Looking at regular lined paper as a result, and you can create your own little fun illusions, making your own lined paper you know, characters, or just playing around with shapes, etc. This is a really fun way in order to practice really core techniques such as measuring things out, lining them, working with straight lines, and then learning how to adapt those lines and do them almost as contour lines in order to show things like the wrinkling of paper, etc., etc., as you have characters playing with it. It's a really fun way to take something that's mundane and boring, like a piece of paper, and turning it into an exciting kind of art puzzle on how you try to figure out how do you make that come alive? How do you make it look like that you've got something 3D sitting on top of that normally 2D surface? And so this is a really good practice of skills in perception and a really good practice in skills in learning how to skew a viewer's perception just by manipulating how you draw and line things out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for our class today. Remember, today was back to basics. We don't always do finalized things on days like this. We usually just play around with basics and techniques and working on projects that help us grow as artists. I do like to make sure that we showcase our classes in realistic manners. We don't do a lot of prep with these. These are really where you get to learn about the process of creating, not just in me showing you technique, but you see me mess up as I work on projects as well. Sometimes it's on purpose, sometimes it's not. That way you can see that art is something that's relatable. It is not something that requires this person who already knows all these things and can then create. This can be done by a real person, and art is really great. Creativity is really great because it's one of the few areas where you really can play around. You really can make mistakes and move on afterwards. It's a The creative arts are really fabulous in creating brains that think differently, which is innovative, and then also create brains that are resilient, which is the other thing you need with innovation in order to be successful. So unbeknownst to most artists, they have a leg up, they're just not quite sure how to always use that leg. And so that's where we come in at ArtCo. We work really hard in filling out the rest of their tools in their toolbox so that they can be super successful both as entrepreneurs and small business owners, but also in their collaborations with music corporations, etc. et al. Because the arts improve our lives in 1,000 different ways. We tend to have it so saturated around us that we forget how very important it is. Please make sure, speaking of how important it is, that you support local artists. We have a wonderful gallery online for you to take a look at, both our Solitary Creations gallery and our Donated Works gallery. Please make sure you're taking a look at all the pieces that are available for sale by local DFW artists. What a fantastic way to both get something beautiful for your own home and also help a struggling small business owner at the same time. As always, I love doing these classes with you. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Tuesday is our art journaling and art therapy day. I get to put in a lot of art therapy principles. If you haven't tuned in for one of these classes before, please make sure you do. It's a really fun, low-key, relaxed class where we play with mixed media on really small book pages, and we play around with creative thinking as we work creatively. Thank you guys again. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time.